Hello and welcome to the ACES Business Academy. I'm Marr Brown. Today we are going to tackle a significant question that is affecting our schools, our society, and businesses as a whole. That question is, how can we better prepare our children for success in life and in their future career? To help us address this issue, we have Mr. Jerry Almendarez, the Superintendent of the Colton Joint Unified School District. Please welcome our guest, Mr. Jerry Almendarez. Mr. Almendarez, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good, thanks for coming in.
Sure.
You know, there's the issue of preparing children for success in life and in their career is a completely different issue in 2014 plus as it was back in the old days, I guess you could say. I think there's two main issues. One is the cost of education in terms of colleges, universities. I know that the college I went to, it's double the amount that it was, 20 years ago, and that's a significant strain on families and kids trying to get into school. But the second issue is jobs and careers after graduation. And there's some pretty astounding numbers that I've read about the unemployment rate for grads, which is as high as 53%
Absolutely.
in some studies. 16% of grads are in part-time positions. And then if you look at now versus the olden days, the rate of unemployment for individuals who went to college years ago was 4.2, and now it's upwards of 50+%. Right. So it's a big issue, and sort of just help us understand, how do you as a superintendent wrap your arms around these issues?
Well, the first thing we look at is what are the economic needs in our region. And for the Inland Empire, there's a specific skill set that's needed, skill set as well as educational background and expertise. And so what we do is we work with our local county officials and our universities to identify the specific jobs that are going to be critical to the economic recovery in this area. And we gear, in the high schools and the public schools, we gear our pathways towards these careers that are out in the future in order to prepare our students to be qualified and to have the skill set that's needed for the job market that potentially exists out there right now.
Okay, and in your opinion, what is, sort of the root cause of the issue, of the unemployment rates, of the difficulty of young people getting into, high paying or at least adequately paying jobs and careers post-graduation?
I think for many years, the focus was on making sure that all students went to college. And absent the focus and on what the actual need was for certain regions, a lot of the students that have graduated from our public schools and have gone on to college have gotten degrees and expertise that maybe aren't necessarily relevant to this region. And as a result of that, they're leaving this area and going to other states and other parts of the country. And so when a student goes and gets a degree in a various field that is not a need in this area, but they stay in this area, then they find themselves in that unemployment line trying to find jobs. And that's where we see kids and young adults and some professionals that have college degrees that are unemployed.
Okay. And it sounds like you mentioned earlier in terms of the collaborations you form with city officials and schools and educators and businesses to really help address this issue. So what are some of the things that are being done to address the issue?
Well, embracing this collective impact philosophy, we have put together what we call in Colton and what the county calls as a community cabinet. Okay. And the community cabinet is made up of local leaders, whether it be universities, higher ed, county government, city governments, police and fire chiefs, faith-based, as well as parents and local chamber members. And the purpose of that is to collectively identify what the community can do to address the needs, academic needs, and the skill level of our students that are coming out of our public schools. If the industry is not talking to the students about what their expectations are, when a student leaves public education, they're not going to know what's expected of them. So when they go and apply for a job, if they don't have those social skills, those communication skills, or the technical background, it's a little bit too late for them to get it. And then now there's a delay in filling these jobs, and in some cases that causes industry to leave the area. And that cycle repeats itself over and over, which is why we have historically high unemployment rates in this region. We're trying to break that cycle. Okay. And through this collaborative effort with our faith base and the chambers and the community leaders, we're trying to get a better understanding of what the needs are in the community so we can share those expectations with our students, give them the opportunities to get some skill set before they get out of high school through our pathway programs, through internship programs. And that way, when they graduate, they'll have some good idea of what they want to do and what the expectations to meet those needs are.
I think that's critically important. I want to touch on what changes are happening in the school system with the Common Core standards and how the schools are trying to now reach out to businesses, understand what do we need to teach? Not this is what we've always done, but what do we need to teach in order to help these young adults prepare for careers? Yeah. So let's talk about that connection for a second in terms of the importance of having different industries in that community cabinet in different fields, whether it's law enforcement, public health, healthcare, which I know is going to be a huge need in the Riverside County, San Bernardino area over the next several years. But just talk about the significance of having the businesses and the employers essentially in these meetings talking to everybody.
Well, the benefit is that when everybody begins that dialogue and starts to talk, they realize that a lot of the goals are the same. The hospitals have a difficult time filling the positions because a lot of times they have to go outside of this region to recruit, when we have a perfectly capable workforce within this region. And if that workforce stays here, then that money that they earn, the dollars spent, are cycled through our region. But what the educational reform process that's taking place, and you mentioned Common Core, is forcing and requiring districts to do is that it's to teach differently and kids learn differently. And in respect that before we were meeting the standards or addressing the standards within the classroom and assessing the kids based on the knowledge of those standards. What Common Core is really doing to our public schools is forcing us to look outside of the box and to address the standards in a different way. So no longer is the correct answer just the right answer. Right. It is, okay, how did you get that answer? What rationale did you use? And are there any other answers that could be addressed in this question? And explain why it's right. And so it takes, and that's across the board in math, science, and language arts. And so kids are no longer, and teachers are no longer expected to settle for the right answer, because in essence there are more than one right answer, or there are multiple answers, and then justify why you got that. So the decision-making process is evolving, and the expectation of students to find multiple ways of thinking, identify multiple ways of thinking, which are causing our staffs to teach in a different way too. And so one of the reasons why we want to bring the local industry in and the community in is because we want to make what's going on in the classroom relevant to the real world. And when we have guest speakers come in, or we have our students go to the hospitals and walk into the emergency rooms and actually participate in putting casts on, and that interaction and that discussion is relevant to what's going on in their science class. We had a boot camp for the electrical IBW electricians, and they made algebra relevant to our 6th and 7th and 8th graders. And so now kids look at math a little bit differently, and when the teachers teach, they can talk about circuits, and they can talk about the mathematical calculations that go into making light work. Right. And so the change is that that this collaborative effort is making learning in the classrooms more relevant to what's going on in the work field.
Well, and to that point, I remember when I was in college, and I got an internship at a company, and that internship turned into a 13-year career there. But I remember I spent 2 summers in that company learning about sales and marketing and management, talking to people, getting involved. So when I went back to college, this was before the Common Core standards and all the changes, I found myself almost helping the professor say, no, this is what you're teaching is sometimes not what's really going on. Right. And that made the difference in terms of myself being able to get into a career after college that turned out to be a very successful career. And so I think, with the approach of the Common Core standards, the approach of trying to bring in businesses and industry into the classroom to help that dialogue is critically important. But I do see some challenges with it. Yes. I have an 11-year-old daughter that is in the public school system at a great school in the Corona area. But I talk to the teachers and I go to the meetings, and they're having to learn how to teach differently, and the children are learning how to think differently. It's no longer, here's your assignment, memorize it, take the test. Now it's like, how do you problem solve? Teamwork in the classroom. How do you come up with different answers? And I think it's the responsibility of the schools and the teachers to teach differently, but also the parents as well, to understand what we need to do to help our children thrive in this new environment, which is critically important to their success. So talk about it from the teacher's perspective and then the parents.
There was a video that talks about this reform and this change process, and one of the comments in the video was, in a classroom setting, or actually in an industry, in order to be effective business tactics and strategies, you have to meet with your colleagues, you have to collaborate, and you have to exchange ideas and thoughts. In the public setting, that's called cheating. Right. When you meet with somebody and you exchange ideas and you talk about what's going on, that's perceived to be differently. And it was much more it was articulated much better in the video. Mm-hmm. The point is that for the past 15 years, we've had a script. Teachers have had a script in the classroom, and that script was designed to make sure the students learned the standard, that state standard in that subject area. What the Common Core is allowed us to do is to get rid of those scripts, to broaden our scope of instruction, and to do the best we can do as classroom teachers to bring in creativity to the classroom, which requires collaboration, in some cases project-based assessments, multiple assessments, and some being paper, tests, as well as a project. It could be a presentation, it could be a website, web design. Right. But for a professional that has been teaching using a script for a long time, and then in a very short period of time, within the matter of 1 or 2 years, saying, okay, forget about the script. Right. Here's what we want you to do, and you figure out how to do it. Right. Is gonna, that change is gonna take some time in the classroom. Now, some teachers will embrace it and say, great, this is the way it used to be. And then some people are going to say, I need the answers to the questions and tell me how to do it, and I can do it, and that doesn't exist. Right. But not only for teachers, it's the same for principals and superintendents. We're learning this Common Core, the implementation, what it looks like, just like the teachers are.
Now, speak to the parents for a second, because I have always believed that what happens in the household is even more important in the classroom, because kids are at the school for a few hours, but they're home and at nights and weekends, and whoever's at home. And I know it's tough for some parents, single parent households, and they're working, and it's not an easy thing for parents to be that involved with their kids. But it is important to help to bring them into that discussion, so they understand what changes are taking place, why their children are not bringing home homework in certain situations. They're doing more classroom work. So help us understand, what can we as parents do to help our children prepare themselves for these changes and to thrive in that environment?
And the answer to that question is it depends. It depends on the district. It depends on the staff development that the teachers are taking. We're in a transition phase right now. What parents can expect is a different way of learning. And I think the important thing for parents to understand and districts and teachers to understand, is that the more we communicate with parents about what's going on, about the changes that are happening, the easier it is for parents to embrace that. Parents usually want to know, how are my kids doing? Are they meeting the expectations? And what can I do to help? Right. Well, if some things have changed as a result of this. Parents have more online access to their teachers' curriculum. A lot of teachers in a lot of districts have grade books that parents have access to. Right. So I think if those grade books are maintained, the assignments are posted, so when a child comes home and says, no, I don't have any homework, then a parent can go, really? Go online and check and validate or find out something else. And so I think what parents need to understand is that it's equal responsibility, but the more communication they have with the school side, I think the easier it will be to understand this reform.
Okay. I want to touch on a different subject that we spoke about offline, and you had a very interesting perspective, and there's a debate that is going on in terms of, should every child strive to go to college?
Sure.
I mean, is that the path that everyone should take? Or is it the junior college route first? Is it, going to a trade school? And I want to get your thoughts on that, especially as someone who, finished high school, went to a junior college, and then went to a four-year university, and then got your master's. So you've gone through the education system. I know you've been a math teacher, and you've been in the education system for many number of years. But if I were to ask you, should every child strive to go to college?
Well, I think every child should have the opportunity to go to college if they desire. But I think the economic environment that currently exists won't sustain that. And we see that in the high unemployment rates for our college grads. Having said that, a non-college grad, if they're good at what they do and they have a skill set that's relevant to this region, could potentially make equal or even more money than a person with a degree. And I think it depends on the area that they go into and the skill set that they have and the quality of worker they are. So to answer that question, everybody should have the opportunity to go. But realistically, everybody is not going to embrace the college mentality, and we are going to need a skilled labor, skilled workforce here. So our challenge in our district is to provide both of those opportunities for both of those kinds of students. The students that are college bound and that do have that desire, and then the pathways and the technical opportunities, the opportunities to acquire those technical skills for those students that don't see college in their future. And there are different scenarios for different families. We have students that are homeless that need to find a job. And maybe, the first 5 years out of high school, it's not possible. They just have to provide income for their family. Well, we need to make sure that they have a skill set that's competitive to get them a job that would be supportive of their goals. If we're successful in doing that, and the student is successful in acquiring those skills and getting that employment, they have that opportunity to go to college when they're ready. And we want to be there to support that. And I know the county feels the same way. The higher ed, the community colleges, and the county board of supervisors, it's making sure that our kids have the skill set, the technical skill set that they need in order for this economic recovery to take place.
And I want to touch on skill sets. We're going to wrap up in a couple minutes, but I want to touch on skill sets for a second. And my background is sales, marketing, management, a lot of the quote-unquote soft skills. And to me, the technical skills for manufacturing jobs and things like that are pretty straightforward. They're kind of clear. There's trade schools, companies have training videos, and there's very technical. The soft skill training is a little bit sort of, if you're not exposed to it, if you're not around people that are good communicators, if you're not in an internship or at a school that teaches that, how do you learn it? And I think that's very difficult for a lot of young people, especially in certain markets where there's not a lot of professionals around that they get exposure to. I know you're changing that by bringing the professionals into the schools, but there's still a ways to go. So talk about the soft skills needed, and how do we begin to help children get those soft skills?
I'll address it in two ways. One, Common Core allows for student presentations to take place. I walked into a 7th grade middle school language arts class yesterday, and trying to understand the implementation of Common Core. So I asked the principal to take me through some Common Core, some teachers that were kind of facilitating that. Walked into a class where students were talking about their passion, and they were getting up and giving speeches about what their passion is. And we had this one young lady who was talking about her clarinet and was playing her clarinet and going through a series of, it was an obvious checklist that the teacher provided that really went deep into that young lady's thought process as to her explanation as to why she was passionate. Not just tell us why you're passionate and then give a 5-minute response, because you'll get a 2-minute response if you're asking for a 5-minute response. But there was a series of questions that she had to answer that really went in depth and really reached deep down inside of her soul to explain why she was passionate about playing the clarinet. And so in our public school system is providing those opportunities now under this Common Core format for that. We've done it in the past. It's usually been up in the AP classes or the higher, the college-going classes, but now it's spreading out throughout all classes and all subject areas. So public schools were providing opportunities for students to do that. but where we need the help, and I think is equally as critical as what we're doing in our classrooms, is bringing in professionals as yourself and from industry, and having conversations with our kids, and even more importantly, providing our kids the opportunities to do some internships and be exposed in the workplace, and what the expectation of the behavior is. Right. We had one young lady, or one chamber member, come to me and told me, Mr. Almendarez, I'm willing to help you, but frankly, I feel more like a babysitter when the school kids come and serve their internship than I do a trainer. And so my conversation with them was, well, what are you telling the kids what the expectations are? And there was kind of a pause in that comment. And if we're not talking, then we don't know what the expectations are. So just recently, we've been contacted by a local business, and they're asking for some intern opportunities for some high school kids, and this is a clerical and office business environment. And so what I did this time is I called the principal. Superintendent called the principal and told the principal, I want about 7 kids, and here are the skill sets that I need. I don't just want anybody. I want somebody who's interested in going into the business field. I want somebody who is a good communicator. Went down that expectation list, and now that principal sent me 7 people. Excellent. And now those 7 people, we're kind of screening them before they get to that business. And we're telling these students, here's an opportunity for you to get some skills that not every student has. Right. And if you don't meet these expectations, then we'll pull that privilege away from you and give it to somebody else. Those conversations really have been happened collectively and globally in the past.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I've had the pleasure of attending a couple of your community cabinet meetings and talk to the parents that were there and the professionals and the educators, and with your guidance, I see such a passion towards really making this work, bringing everybody together, having those conversations, because there's the responsibility lies on everybody. The students have to know the expectations, have to step up. That's right. Businesses have to go into the schools and provide their time and their resources. Educators have to think differently and do differently, act differently. So everyone has to sort of embrace it and operate differently. And what I've seen is just sort of a true commitment and a undeniable passion for making this work to really do something about this issue. And so as we wrap up, are there any final thoughts that you have? I mean, let's say it's 10 years from now, and we've, the community cabinet has met, more, and the Common Core standards is now part of the normal ebb and flow of what we do, and teachers are thinking differently, and children are understanding differently. What does that look like? What is your vision, and what would you hope for all these changes? I see, well, my vision would be kind of modeling the county's vision, and that's seeing that every district and every community in the Inland Empire have successfully established and implemented a community cabinet with support from their local industry and their faith-based. And then I see a vibrant workforce. Okay. I see the region attracting industry. And in some cases, it's going to be industry that doesn't exist and jobs that don't exist today. I see qualified kids when they leave the high schools, qualified in the sense that they have acquired a set of skills that they can go directly into the job market, or the college of their choice. And so, but it's going to take that collective effort like you talk about. And what I've seen, and I appreciate the kind words, we couldn't do this without businesses and people like yourself, leaders in the community. And I think my passion comes from seeing the desire and the passion from our community wanting to help. And so I think that we're in the beginning of some wonderful things here in our region, and it's not just Colton, it's San Bernardino and Yucaipa, and some districts in the high desert. We're all in different places, but we all share the same passion. And so it's a good place to be for a change. Excellent. And I want to close with this. The last meeting I went to, there was a parent that walked, because we all, and you make us work when we go to these meetings. It's not just sit there and talk and leave. We have to sign up to do something, and which is great. And so I signed up to teach a couple of classes. I had a parent walk up to me, couldn't even speak English, and they have translators at the meeting as well. And through a translator, she said, can I have your number? Can I have my child call you just to get some exposure to you, just to talk to you about business? And she had tears in her eyes, and to me, that's the true measure of what you're doing, is really, really making a difference. So I really want to thank you for your leadership and thank you for what you're doing, and I appreciate you being on the show today.
You got it. Thank you for participating.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching this special edition of the ACES Business Academy. As we learn, preparing our children for future success in life and in their career is both a complicated problem and a critical issue to address. As a parent, educator, professional, or a concerned citizen, I encourage you to get involved and participate in the initiatives that are currently being offered and in development to provide the training, exposure, experience, and skills that our children will need to thrive in the future. For more information, please visit acescalifornia.org. I'm your host, Marr Brown.